So you binged all 9 seasons of Suits, and now you think you know what it's like to be a lawyer. Well, I hate to break it to you, but Harvey Specter would be disbarred faster than you can say, I don't get out of bed for less than $500,000. Well, Suits isn't completely wrong about everything, and that's what makes it so dangerous for people who think they understand how the legal world works. So today we're looking at what the show Suits gets right, what it gets spectacularly wrong. Let's start with the big one. Mike Ross practicing law without a license. This isn't just a little creative liberty the writers took. This is straight up fraud, and not just any fraud. It's the kind that would destroy everyone involved. Harvey, Jessica, the entire firm, they'd all be facing criminal charges and disbarment proceedings. The entire premise of Suits hinges on Mike Ross practicing law without a license. While the show tries to provide some justification, the reality is that knowingly allowing an unlicensed individual to practice law is fraud. But let's say we ignore that massive legal violation for a moment. What else does Suits get wrong? Well, almost everything about how cases work in the show. Cases get resolved in days or weeks. Harvey walks into court, delivers some brilliant argument, and boom, case closed. But that's not how it works at all. Real cases take months or years to resolve. Discovery alone could take forever. You're talking about months of document review, depositions, expert witnesses, and motion practice. No lawyer, even if he is of Harvey's caliber, can handle 36 cases a day. Forget about finding the time to go out for dinners and drinks, boxing and jogs, and car racing. And speaking of Harvey's tactics, half the stuff he does would be considered fraud or malpractice. In the first 15 minutes of the pilot, Harvey Specter has lied to a client and committed fraud in the inducement. That would never be condoned the way Jessica Pearson does. The show treats lying to clients and opposing counsel like it's just part of being a smart lawyer. But that's not strategy. That's how you get sanctioned, sued for malpractice, and potentially disbarred. Here's what else the show gets wrong about daily practice. All that dramatic courtroom action. Most lawyers rarely see the inside of a courtroom. Corporate lawyers especially spend their time reviewing contracts, negotiating deals, and sitting in conference rooms. Not exactly TV-worthy material, but that's the reality in those law libraries with all the books. One of the main inaccuracies that regularly came to my mind was that a lot of the research Mike did was done in the library, using books. This is a rather traditional depiction that is untrue to our modern methods. Most legal research today is done online. Westlaw, LexisNexis, Bloomberg Law, that's where lawyers find cases and statutes. Digital subscriptions are less expensive and they require no physical real estate. Updates, cross-references, and additional authority can be drawn up in mere seconds. But it's not all wrong. The show does get some things right about big law firm culture. The long hours, the pressure, the politics, that's all pretty accurate. Associates do work insane hours, often until late at night and on weekends. The hierarchical structure is real too. Partners do have enormous power over associates' careers. The show also captures the competitive nature of corporate law. Lawyers do fight hard for their clients, and there's definitely ego involved. The pressure to bill hours and bring in business is very real. Associates are under constant scrutiny. And the threat of being let go is always there. And the suits themselves, yeah, lawyers at big firms do dress well. Not everyone looks like Harvey Specter, but there's definitely a premium on appearance and presentation. First impressions matter in the legal world, especially when you're dealing with high-stakes corporate clients. The relationship dynamics aren't completely off either. Mentorship is important in law firms. Senior lawyers do take associates under their wing, though it usually looks more like teaching someone how to draft a brief than plotting elaborate schemes to outmaneuver opposing counsel. But here's where things get tricky. The show is notorious for its implausible legal maneuvers. Characters routinely engage in unethical practices like ex parte communications with judges, a clear violation of judicial ethics in the real world, where all parties usually are present. Ex parte communications are a huge no-no. You can't just call up a judge and chat about your case without the other side being present. That's grounds for mistrial and potential sanctions. The show also makes it look like lawyers can just walk into any courtroom and argue any case, but legal practice is specialized. A corporate lawyer doesn't suddenly become a criminal defense attorney or a family law expert. Different areas of law require different skills, knowledge, and experience. And those dramatic closing arguments, most civil cases don't even have jury trials. They're decided by judges based on motions for summary judgment or, bench trials. The percentage of cases that actually go to trial is tiny. Most settle before they ever see a courtroom. The The timeline issues are massive too. The show makes it seem like you can file a lawsuit on Monday and be in court by Friday, but court schedules are packed. Getting a trial date can take years in some jurisdictions. Emergency motions exist, but they're for actual emergencies, not because Harvey wants to stick it to opposing counsel. Here's another big one: privilege and confidentiality. The show treats attorney-client privilege like it's absolute, which it mostly is, but there are exceptions, and lawyers can't just hide behind privilege to cover up crimes or fraud. The crime-fraud exception is real, and it would definitely apply to Mike's situation. The show does capture some of the ethical gray areas that lawyers face, and sometimes you do have to make tough decisions about how aggressive to be in representing your client. But there's a line between zealous advocacy and outright misconduct, and Suits characters cross it constantly. What about the money? The show gets this part mostly right. Top-tier associates at Manhattan law firms do make serious money. We're talking $200,000 plus bonuses for first-year associates. Partners can make millions, but most lawyers don't make anywhere near that much. The average lawyer makes a good living, but they're not driving Aston Martins. The work environment depicted in Suits is both accurate and not. Yes, big law firms are competitive, high-pressure environments, but they're also heavily regulated by bar associations and internal compliance departments. The kind of scheming and rule-breaking that happens routinely in the show would trigger internal investigations and ethics complaints. Let's talk about something the show completely ignores: malpractice insurance and risk management. Real law firms are obsessed with avoiding liability. They have detailed procedures for everything from conflict checking to document retention. The casual way Suits characters handle confidential information and potential conflicts of interest would give any real firm's general counsel nightmares. The show also glosses over the administrative side of a law practice. Like, real lawyers spend a lot of time on billing, client development, and practice management. It's not all dramatic negotiations and courtroom showdowns. There's a lot of mundane work that keeps law firms running. But here's what Suits gets absolutely right: the addictive nature of high-stakes legal work. When you're working on deals worth hundreds of millions of dollars or cases that could destroy companies, it does create an adrenaline rush. The intellectual challenge of complex legal problems can be genuinely exciting. The show also captures how personal relationships get complicated in high-pressure work environments. Office romances, mentoring relationships, and professional rivalries are all part of big firm culture, though hopefully with less blackmail and fraud than we see in the show. So what's the verdict? The series is not entirely accurate in its representation of the legal system, with many glaring inaccuracies. However, unless you're a pre-law student using the series as study material, that shouldn't be a huge problem for most viewers. Suits is entertainment, not a documentary. It takes real elements of legal practice and cranks up the drama to 11. The problem comes when people think it's realistic and use it to form opinions about how lawyers actually work or what the legal system is like. The show's biggest disservice is making legal practice look more glamorous and fast-paced than it really is. Real lawyers spend more time reading documents and writing memos than they do delivering brilliant courtroom speeches. Most legal work is careful, methodical, and frankly, pretty boring to watch. But if you can separate the entertainment from reality, Suits does offer some insights into big firm culture and the pressures lawyers face. Just remember, if Harvey Specter were a real lawyer, he'd probably be in prison by now. Thanks for joining us today at Due Process Daily. Throw us a like and consider subscribing to the channel to help us grow.